Matthew 12:15. But being aware of this, Jesus went away from there, and many people joined and accompanied him, and he cured all of them. Matthew 12:22. Then a blind and dumb man under the power of a demon was brought to Jesus, and he cured him, so that the blind and the dumb man both spoke and saw. Matthew 14:13 through 14. When Jesus heard it, he withdrew from there privately in a boat to a solitary place, but when the crowds heard of it, they followed him by land on foot from the towns. When he went ashore and saw a great throng of people, he had compassion, pity, and was deeply moved for them, and he cured their sick. Matthew 14:34 through 36. And when they had crossed over to the other side, they went ashore at Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent around into all the surrounding country and brought to him all who were sick, and begging him to let them merely touch the fringe of his garment, and as many as touched it were perfectly restored. Matthew 15:29 through 31. And Jesus went on from there and passed along the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Then he went up into the hills and kept sitting there, and a great multitude came to him, bringing with them the lame, the maimed, the blind, the dumb, and many others. And they put them down at his feet, and he cured them. So that the crowd was amazed when they saw the dumb speaking, the maimed made whole, and the lame walking, and the blind seeing. And they recognized and praised and thanked and glorified the God of Israel. Matthew 16:13 through 19. Now when Jesus went into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they answered, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you yourselves say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Then Jesus answered him, "Blessed, happy, fortunate, and to be envied are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell, the powers of the infernal region, shall not overpower it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever you bind and declare to be improper and unlawful on earth must be what is already bound in heaven. And whatever you loose, declare lawful on the earth, must be what is already loosed in heaven." Matthew 17:14 through 20. And when they approached the multitude, a man came up to him, kneeling before him and saying, "Lord, do pity and have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers terribly, for frequently he falls into the fire and many times into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they were not able to cure him." And Jesus answered, "O you unbelieving generation, how long am I to remain with you? How long am I to be with you? Bring him to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was cured instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus and asked him privately, "Why could we not drive it out?" He said to them, "Because of the littleness of your faith, that is, your lack of firmly relying and trusting. For truly I say to you, if you have faith, that is, living faith, like a grain of mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to yonder place,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you." Matthew 18:18 through 20. Truly I tell you, whatever you forbid and declare to be improper and unlawful on earth must be what is already forbidden in heaven. And whatever you permit and declare proper and lawful on the earth must be what is already permitted in heaven. Again, I tell you, if two of you on earth agree, harmonize together, make a symphony together about whatever, anything, or everything that they may ask, it will come to pass and be done for them by my Father in heaven. For wherever 2 or 3 are gathered, drawn together as my followers in my name, there I am in the midst of them. Matthew 19:1 and 2. Now when Jesus had finished saying these things, he left Galilee and went into the part of Judea that is beyond the Jordan, and great throngs accompanied him, and he cured them there. Matthew 20:29 through 34. And as they were going out of Jericho, a great throng accompanied him, and behold, 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside. And when they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, Lord, have pity and mercy on us, Son of David. The crowds reproved them and told them to keep still, but they cried out all the more, Lord, have mercy, have pity on us, Son of David. And Jesus stopped and called them and asked, What do you want me to do for you? They answered him, Lord, we want our eyes to be opened. And Jesus, in pity, touched their eyes, and instantly they received their sight and followed him. Matthew 21:14. And the blind and the lame came to him in the porches and courts of the temple, and he cured them. Matthew 21:18 through 22. In the early dawn the next morning, as he was coming back to the city, he was hungry. And as he saw one single leafy fig tree above the roadside, he went to it, but he found nothing but leaves on it, seeing that in the fig tree the fruit appears at the same time as the leaves. And as he said to it, Never again shall fruit grow on you, and the fig tree withered up at once. When the disciples saw it, they marveled greatly, asking, How is it that the fig tree has withered away all at once? And Jesus answered them, Truly I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, Be taken up and cast into the sea, it will be done. And whatever you ask in prayer, having faith and really believing, you will receive. Mark chapter 1, verses 30 through 34. Now Simon's mother-in-law had for some time been lying sick with a fever, and at once they told him about her. And he went up to her, took her by the hand, raised her up, and the fever left her, and she began to wait on them. Now when it was evening, after the sun had set, they brought to him all who were sick, and those under the power of demons, until the whole town was gathered together about the door. And he cured many who were afflicted with various diseases, and he drove out many demons, but would not allow the demons to talk, because they knew him. Mark 1:40 through 42. And a leper came to him, begging him on his knees and saying to him, If you are willing, you are able to make me clean. And being moved with pity and sympathy, Jesus reached out his hand and touched him and said to him, I am willing. Be made clean. And at once the leprosy completely left him, and he was made clean by being healed. Mark 3:7 through 10. And Jesus retired with his disciples to the lake, and a great throng from Galilee followed him, also from Judea, and from Jerusalem, and Idumea, and from beyond the Jordan, and from Tyre and Sidon, a vast multitude, hearing all the many things that he was doing, came to him. And he told his disciples to have a little boat in constant readiness for him because of the crowd, lest they press hard upon him and crush him. for he had healed so many that all who had distressing bodily diseases kept falling upon him and pressing upon him in order that they may touch him. Mark 5:21 through 43. And when Jesus had recrossed in the boat to the other side, a great throng gathered about him, and he was at the lake shore. Then one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he prostrated himself at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, My little daughter is at the point of death. Come, lay your hands on her, so that she might be healed and live. And Jesus went with him. And a great crowd kept following him and pressing him from all sides, so as almost to suffocate him. And there was a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years, who had endured much suffering under the hands of many physicians, and who had spent all that she had, and was no better, instead grew worse. She had heard the reports concerning Jesus, and she came up behind him in the throng and touched his garment. For she kept saying within herself, If I only touch his garment, I shall be restored to health. And immediately her flow of blood was dried up at the source, and suddenly she felt in her body that she was healed of her distressing disease and ailment. And Jesus, recognizing in himself that the power proceeding from him had gone forth, turned around immediately in the crowd and said, Who touched my clothes? And the disciples kept saying to him, You see the crowd pressing around you from all sides, and you ask, Who touched me? Still he kept looking around to see her who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had been done for her, though alarmed and frightened and trembling, fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, Daughter, your faith, your trust and confidence in me, springing from faith in God, has restored you to health. Go in peace and be continually healed and freed from your distressing bodily disease. While he was still speaking, there came some from the ruler's house who said to Jairus, Your daughter has died. Why bother and distress the teacher any further? Overhearing, but ignoring what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, Do not be seized with alarm and struck with fear, only keep on believing. And he permitted no one to accompany him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. When they arrived at the house of the ruler of the synagogue, he looked carefully and with understanding at the tumult of the people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had gone in, he said to them, Why do you make an uproar and weep? The little girl is not dead, but is sleeping. And they laughed and jeered at him. But he put them all out at once, and taking the hand of the child's father and mother and those who were with him, he went in where the little girl was lying. Gripping her firmly by the hand, he said to her, Talitha cumi, which is translated, Little girl, I say to you, arise from the sleep of death. And instantly the girl got up and started walking around, for she was 12 years old. And they were utterly astonished and overcome with amazement. And he strictly commanded and warned them that no one should know this. And he expressly told them to give her something to eat.